Okay. Are we on? Are we on?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, we're live.
Okay. Good morning. This is the January meeting of the Allegheny County IDA. I'm Judy Hopkins, the chair, and members of our board that are here. Pardon my voice, I haven't talked enough today. It'll get better. Doug Frank, board member, John Rickey, board member, Craig Clark, our executive director, Barb Benjamin, our business manager, and we'll be having other people arrive at some point during the session. On the Zoom or the whatever it's called, the Teams meeting, is Rich Yule. So we have a quorum and we're starting the meeting. The first order of business is to approve the minutes of the December meeting, December 12th. I'd like to hear a motion to accept that as we start.
Well, I can't because I wasn't here and neither was Rich, right?
Well, I'll move it.
John,
Yeah.
John can move it.
Yeah. Second it.
I'll second it. Are there any questions about the minutes? Or discussion? If not, I would entertain a vote on that. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, that's
Aye.
passed. Thank you. The next order of business is an executive session to discuss a contractual legal issue. So I need a motion to go into executive session.
I'll move.
Thank you, John. Second by Doug. All those in favor, aye.
Aye. Aye.
Thank you. session. A motion to do that, please. Thank you, John. Second, Doug. Thank you.
And I'll let
All
Lee
in
James
favor?
in.
Aye. We're out of
I
executive.
didn't want to let her in. Whoops, where'd she go?
Maybe she hung up.
She disappeared on you. Go ahead. You keep going. I'll get her back
Okay,
on.
we are actually back up to the treasurer's report. The abstract, we need a motion to approve that, and any questions that you have. I'll take a motion.
If you go ahead and click in again, I'll let you in.
So moved.
Okay, thank you, Randy. Second? John?
Second.
Thank you. Okay, we'll take a look at that. Any questions on the abstract report and expenses? Hearing none, all in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Next is the banking and financial summary. Excuse me, we need a motion to approve that. Doug, how about you? Okay,
I'll
John,
move.
thank you. Second, any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That is approved, thank you. The third thing is to review the use of the funds, discussing the finance. Is that fiancé? I don't know, who's the fiancé?
Yeah, I know. I did my spell check, but somehow it got you a finance instead of finance committee.
Well,
So,
Finance.
so this
Fiance
time
is
Doug
a
and,
word.
Doug and Randy are finance.
okay, I'm glad you two are betrothed. Yeah, that's good. Okay.
Judy, you asked for Doug and Randy to report, is there anything you
Yeah,
want to report on
so-
the budget or where we are?
Would you two have been involved in helping to produce this budget? Maybe share what you want with us, and Barb as well. Barb, you've done all the putting it together work probably. Where are we at?
As far as comments on the budget,
And the process and
I don't have
whatever.
any real comments on it. I think that Randy and I met with, Barb and Craig, earlier this week.
Right.
regarding finance.
And they both found some things that we revised.
And we asked some additional questions at that point in time. I don't think they had-
Can you share some of the concerns that you had?
Pardon?
Can you share with the group some of the questions that you had about that and what was changed?
Well, the first thing I had, I guess, major question. You know, under the pilot administration fee, that you have 1.4 million. This report is different than what we looked at.
Can you
But
find
this
that?
is just the budget. What we had was my
Compared last year to this year.
cheat sheet.
Yeah, we had 2 sheets last time with Matt. And the question I had was what the difference was, and Craig had answered that that's the projected income that we're gonna have for this year.
Well, the income is based upon what the LCAT wind project was and basically anything else we already have in the hoppers. And why it went down was the question. And the why it went down is because last year we had NSF, the 4 burn projects paid last year, and it was a fairly good sized sum. That's why last year's was lower than this year's.
Do you have a line number on that item? That we could make that just real quick.
The pilot administration fee,
Right.
Yeah, I get it.
92.
And that's what Doug was asking, why it was lower than this year.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, anybody have any questions about Comments that you
Randy had a
want
question on,
Randy? Doug?
Yeah, I had a question. There was some confusion I didn't understand.
Which we fixed.
But Barbara rectified that. I see in this sheet about the transactions that we're doing with Sickerman and Company, with Mike Zimmerman. Just some placement of where those fees were. I didn't see the 75K. And the 75K was which is the handling fee that we're paying them, that was rolled into the 300K. So it's broken out in this sheet that we have in our packet. It's broken out 225 and 75. It's still the same number, but it was presented differently in two different places, and that's what my confusion was.
So I'm seeing a 225 at line number 101, advertising. Is that the one you're talking about?
No, it should be.
It'd be 102. Right below that, advertising.
Okay,
Grant award 225, and then the administrative.
that's what I was looking at on my, but I need to be up higher. I can't see.
Well, the lines don't print very dark.
No, thank you. Good, keep going, Randy.
Well, and then the administrative fee is right behind it, the 75.
Okay,
And what I was looking at had a single line on it, item for 300. So she's broken it out here.
Yeah, it wasn't clear that the 75 for the administration is part of the 300 is what it was. So,
great, thank you.
Yeah, the other thing, Randy, you talked about was the employee benefits at 30%.
we
Right.
fixed that as well.
Item 108.
We used the county's rate, which is
That's all.
40.88. 40.88.
40.88%.
We used the county rate, we upped that, we changed that, yes.
So that was changed after this.
Okay.
Because you asked whether or not what we use for benefits, and we use the county rate, because that's probably a good.
So it's not 30% that's here? on
No.
this sheet? It's 40,
48%.
48%,
40.88.
40. Thank you.
Is that reflected in here? I didn't,
No, it's not in this copy.
It's not in there.
yeah, because it still says 24, right?
Yeah, if it came to like 30,000.
Yeah, and the other question I had that is subsequent to our conversation, we're looking at, or this budget includes the hiring of a deputy executive director.
Right,
But we're utilizing Walker Business Systems for Barb, right?
right.
Wouldn't it make sense if we're gonna be an employer that we be totally an employer and that Barb become an employee? Or that we find somebody to contract, why, we have one person on a contract
Right.
with Alfred State, we have one person who's an employee, and we have one person who's with Walker Business Systems. Seems kind of convoluted.
I tend to agree, I think we should move Barb over to, if we're gonna do another employee, once we do the other employee, we can move Barb over as well, yes.
And Barb, would that make a difference in your benefits? If you were employed by the IDA rather than Walker?
The only thing I have to Walker is some sick time.
Okay,
We'd have to discuss that, because
Right.
obviously she's part-time, so we can discuss that at that time, yes. But I think you're right, Randy, I don't think the cost would be any more, but we would just swap it over.
and can I ask, we have the 127, but where would we find the line item for Walker?
It is professional fees under the IDA, that 43,000.
122?
120.
Yes,
Okay.
So we could do a budget amendment and change where we put the line item later, if we decide to do that.
Do we have a contract on any, do we have a contract with Walker? Do we have a
Yes.
contract with Alfred State?
Yes,
And what's the anniversary of those contracts? I mean, are these amounts, we're talking about, do we approve this or don't we approve this? Is this something we've contractually agreed to already?
the contract with Alfred State College is through August 31st or whatever, the end of August. The one that with Barb is ongoing until we decide we don't want her. I mean, it's not a defined time frame. Is that what you're asking?
But are they gonna raise the rent? I mean, there's some point in time, they're gonna say, she's been here for 10 years and we're paying her 10-year-old wages.
No, but that's us, that's our discussion. Remember, we already raised her her rate once. So we decide what we pay her, and then they tack on 1% on top of it.
Alfred stayed the same way.
Ours is a contract, it's just a straight flat number.
Okay, and that's not due, so we're in at the old number until August?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other comments or questions? My question is, are we looking to approve this today as presented?
Yes,
Okay, so,
unless there's other changes. Yes.
okay,
That's later on in the agenda, but yes.
okay. Okay, yeah, it's actually the next thing. So, okay, so can we conclude the review of the budget at this point? Board? Rich, do you have any comments? Rich, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. What'd you say, Judy?
Do you have any comments on the budget
Do you have any comments on the budget?
before we get,
No,
but the
no,
next
I thought it
order
was
is to
very well done.
actually approve it.
I
Yeah.
thought it was very well done, and I really appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, I approve.
Okay.
Okay, okay, thank you. Yeah, we're just looking to move ahead with the next step. Yes, we want to thank the team that put this together, Barb, Craig,
Barb's in most
and our two members, Doug and Rich. I said, but especially to Barb, this is a lot of lines here, 182 lines worth of small print, so thank you. Okay, actually, the next thing is the building maintenance report, but can we jump to the budget?
We can jump right to
Get
the
that
budget.
done?
There's nothing else.
Okay. Pardon me?
Because you jumped into the budget, did we get?
Oh, I'm sorry, the banking and financial summary. We don't have the other on the agenda, but we can put it.
For the thing that
Okay. Okay, you want to do that first?
Yeah.
Okay,
well, that's in the, that was before the budget, right?
Yeah, we did the banking and
Right.
financial.
we did the, yeah,
We're all set?
okay. Okay, all right. I don't see Matt Wilkinson
No,
on the
just keep
team
going.
yet, so I think we can go ahead.
Yeah.
And approve the budget as presented today. We'll need a motion for that. John, thank you very much. Second? Rich, how about you?
I'll second that.
Thank you very much. Okay. It's been moved and seconded that we approve the budget as presented for 2025 for the IDA. Any questions about that? If not, we'll take a vote. All those in favor of approving the 2025 budget as proposed at today's meeting, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you, that is passed. That's a big one. Thank you for all the good work. Thank you. Okay. All right, it is 11 o'clock. Rich and Lee, we welcome you to our meeting. Thank you for joining us. We want to acknowledge all your work that you've been doing in terms of the finishing of the Great Lakes transition and your efforts to try and bring somebody else into that space. So we're just kind of waiting on Matt right now to join us. Do you have any comments you'd like to share before that?
No, just thank you for getting involved and being a part of the process. We're looking forward to hopefully finding the right fit for the building. There is a tour going on right now as we speak, and
Really? Good.
obviously the IDA board, a few members went through yesterday and maybe have questions about the facility itself after seeing it.
Okay.
And obviously Matt can answer more than I can, but they actively are starting, the process of removing the rest of the product out of the facility. They have a gentleman here on staff helping with the closing down of the facility.
Mhm, mhm. We did have some discussion, actually, before our meeting actually started, about that, and one of the things that was brought up was to try and have Great Lakes maintain the heat, the temperature control until at least April, before, after the winter season is over, and getting it into the time when pipes are not going to freeze. And especially if you have any perspectives coming in there, we would want to be able to walk around and be comfortable. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I can't see your eyes. I can only see your mouth. So.
I'm sorry, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And certainly Matt can speak to all of that as well when he
Okay.
gets on.
Okay, sounds good.
Answer a lot of questions.
Yeah, he must be delayed for some reason. Oh, there he is,
There he
right
is.
there. Good morning, Matt. Welcome to the IDA meeting. You came just in time. We were just saying perhaps you've been delayed, so it's very good to.
I just had a 10 till 11, but I'm good from now till noon.
Okay, well, we won't keep you that long, I don't think. But anyway, thank you very much for joining us today. And why don't we kind of go around the room here and introduce ourselves for you. Many of us have not met you in person. They did have a tour yesterday of the facilities. There were a couple of people that went on that tour. So why don't we just kind of go around and tell you who's here. Rich Ewell is on the team's presentation as well. So he is not present in the room. Rich, are you there?
I'm here, yeah.
Oh, okay, good, all right. Also, we'll just do the screen here at this point. Lee James, whom you are well acquainted with, I believe, is also on the team's presentation. And then the rest of us are in the room. So I'm Judy Hopkins, Chair of the IDA, and why don't we just kind of go around the room and say hello.
Randy Shaler, Vice Chair of the IDA.
Doug Frank, and I'm the treasurer of the IDA. Matt, I met you up in Franklinville at the plant.
I remember.
Okay.
Barb Benjamin, Operations Director at the IDA.
Craig Clark, hello, Matt.
Great.
Hi, Matt. John Rickey, IDA member, also a county legislator, and I live in Cuba.
Tim Boyd, Deputy County Administrator.
And Doug lives in Cuba also. So great. So we're happy to have you here today, and I'm sure you have some comments that you want to share with us. We'd like to hear those.
Sure. No, I think when you're mostly what Craig and Lee had talked to me about, Craig in particular, as far as you guys go, is what's the current status of what's going on with the Cuba site, the old site there right now. So you may, I don't know how often you've driven past it, but at the moment, production has already stopped in the plant. So the drying tower that's there finished at December the 15th, and the last cheese was produced in the facility on December the 31st. So right now, there are very few people working there. That's why your tour guide yesterday was most likely Dan Huntley. So Dan Huntley is a custodian. He's not a GLC employee, but he is helping to keep the facility manned, which we are required to do from an insurance perspective, until the facility is retired completely. So for the last, I would actually say for the last 2 years or so, we've had a lot of visitors coming into the facility who may or may not have had any interest in there. There hasn't been anything genuine, I guess I would say. So we hosted a lot of folks, but none of them have really panned out. So Lee has helped with a lot of introductions there. We had folks from Cornell who've been facilitating visits. I know Lee or the legislation for New York State had engaged with some folks in Washington, D.C. to try and identify whether or not there would be any potential from national perspective. So we facilitated a few folks from that angle as well out there. And we've had some calls with folks from IDFA and from Washington on what could potentially be done. But again, the summary is, as of right now, we don't have any other company that has shown genuine interest in doing anything with the old facility. So with that in mind, the schedule that I think Craig had already shared with you about what we're doing with the facility since production has stopped. Right now, there are systems in the facility that we are required to decommission. So the first of them is the wastewater treatment facility. So New York DEC does require us to shut that facility down. And their intent is not just to shut it down, but we are required to completely decommission it, being demolition and then backfilling the soil behind it. So there is a plan that's currently underway to perform that activity. The side effects of that are that the facility, the plant itself, even to run, even to stay energized, does use the wastewater treatment plant. So the blowdown from the boilers, for example, the excess water that comes off the ammonia condensers, that water does flow down into the wastewater treatment facility. So if the wastewater treatment facility is not there anymore, we do have to shut down the boilers, which means shuts down heat to the building. And we have to shut down the ammonia condensers, which means shutting down cooling to the building. So when we do that, there's obviously a risk of freezing on the building itself when there's no heat in there. And in the summer, it will mean there's a big risk of mold growth inside the facility with no refrigeration. So we are currently, though, on the path of decommissioning both of those subsystems. So the boilers are planned to shut down, except for domestic heat, which is in the front office, and that doesn't have any blowdown. So that is intended to be shutting down starting in February, and the ammonia systems will also be shut down in February. So once that happens, the interior of the building is essentially decommissioned, except for the front office where it looks like Lee is sitting right now. So that little part of the building, that would stay. And then as it would go right now, we have a company out of Pittsburgh, their name is Harry Davis, they're an auctioneer. So what they are doing starting next week is inventorying all of the equipment that's inside the building. So that's things like cheese vats, the milk silos, motors and generators, things like this. And then they will auction all of that equipment off. So that auction will take place through the month of March with an auction end date of March the 28th, I think it is. Then the people who win any of that stuff, they have 75 days to get it out of the building. So that takes us until the middle of June, and then it's equipment. So the building would still be usable, but the equipment would be getting removed by then. If we have no other path, so there's nothing else that we know of, our intent then would be to essentially mine the building for materials. So stripping out the stainless steel, copper from electrical wiring, take the lights, take the windows, anything of value would be recycled out of the building. We don't have anyone lined up to do that for us, but that would be our plan. And once that is done, again, assuming nothing else is developed, we would demolish the buildings and then return it back to just bare soil. That's the current plan that we have going on. In the meantime, like I said, it's already been going for 2 years with Lee and Craig and others, trying to find someone who might be able to use the building. We're willing to take a look at any options that might come up out there. And that's currently where we're at.
Do you have any comments, Lee? I know you've got at least one potential. I don't know how that's happening right now, but.
There's two potentials that are locally based. So once they're done with the tour here today, then I can visit with them a little more. And that if I could get, they know it would be much different from when you were, the plant was processing and everything. But if we could get some idea of utilities, and I don't know, is there a way to gauge it now, like that you're shut down, the cost?
When you say idea of utilities, you mean what's available in there or capacity?
You talking about what to keep it out open right now?
Cost estimate.
Say that again.
A cost estimate, if you could. They know it would be vastly different, but if they could get some sort of idea, like the office space, I know that's separate, so, and what it would be for the facility itself.
To replace them or just running them?
Just the cost to run them.
Oh yeah, we can provide the utility bills.
Okay, and then is there a appraisal on the building?
No. We have not had an appraisal done, no. The only reason we would probably need an appraisal is if we were going to donate the building to somebody, then an appraisal would need to be performed. Otherwise, because no one has really needed an appraisal and we have no use for appraisals, we have not paid for one to be performed.
Now, is that something the company is willing to do, to donate the building to someone at no cost?
It's a possibility. Yep, no, it's possible.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, because some of the spaces are really useful, you know.
Lee, this is Doug Frank. Are you able to say, not name the people that are looking at it, but could you generally tell us what type of, what they would be using the facilities for?
I don't even remember all their names. Lee may remember some. The one I spent the most time with, so we spent an extensive amount of time with them, was a company called Local Coho. So they were a salmon farming operation. So what they were planning to do was use the facility itself to install very large ponds, salt and fresh water and brackish water, and breed fish in there, salmon. However, they decided the buildings, it's broken into many rooms inside the building, as you probably saw. They wanted like a giant warehouse type design, and they felt the ceiling heights were too low. So they needed very high ceilings for these big tanks of theirs. So they pulled out. They were the most developed, I guess,
That's the one
proposal we visited many times. Otherwise, we've had a couple companies that are into warehousing, so looking at using it as warehousing space, but none of them happened out. We did have a cheese guy who wanted to be able to manufacture, actually they wanted us to manufacture cheese and then sell it to them, and then they were going to press it into different shapes. But that wasn't really conducive. He also had no money. He was just like a local person. So we were indicated it was a company, but it turned out not to be. In fact, who else that we had? But, there were others, and I'm just not remembering all their names. We would have a list of visitors who have been in there, but Lee, you may remember some of the others you brought to us as well.
Yeah, some of them have just been folks looking to see what possibilities, but the two are local. One's a developer, and obviously he's got a track record of being able to come in and resize or bring in other people. So if there's a possibility, I think he could take the building and then he would subdivide probably and lease it out. The folks walking through, they are a business. They've been in the area for 6 years, and they have a growing business, and they, the building's big, I'll say that. So depending on their needs, it could be a potential for it.
There was the marijuana grower that never worked out, so I don't know if you have any more.
No, I don't think we want that. I think that's gonna be a failing in New York.
Yeah, and then we had a trucking company also that had some interest, but they pulled out, so they were after something that's more like a cross dock. So our building design again wasn't conducive to what they wanted. So one reason or another, everyone we've taken through there is pulled out and has no interest.
Thanks for sharing that. It's really interesting to see what different types of things have at least inquired about it. So, good.
When and if you have to shut things off, because now I understand more why you're talking about shutting off some of that heat. What about the fact that draining some of the lines to make it so the building doesn't implode kind of thing?
Yep, that's being done. So as part of the decommissioning that will be, but there's a lot of underground plumbing and a lot of pipes that we cannot clear out completely.
I know you can't clear everything out, but just to make sure that it doesn't completely damage the building, because otherwise it's going to be.
And we'll do the best we can. But as you know, once the building has been shut down, so once water and gas and things have shut down, to turn them back on, somebody's going to have to do inspection of all those pipes and things like that. While they're idling, it's okay. And when we say idle, we still are pumping fluid through all of these pipes. We don't let water just sit in there. So all of the ammonia systems, all the water systems, they're all continually kept in motion. Once they stop and we flush them with air, we won't know what condition they're really in until someone fills them with water and things again. And if they start leaking everywhere, it's tough for us to know after it's shut down what state they're in.
Yeah, because I didn't realize that it was all feeding into your wastewater treatment plant.
Yeah, the DEC doesn't elect, since we have no sanitary sewer out there at all, The only thing we have is our own septic tanks. We have 3 septic tanks on site that are used for sanitary waste, so the bathroom type waste.
Right.
Everything else is required to be treated by DEC. So our boil down water, just in case there's chemical infiltration into that water, and our ammonia water is required to be treated. And we do all that with the wastewater treatment plant that we run ourselves.
When is the wastewater treatment plant gonna be completely so that you have to shut off all the water?
So the engineer, their name is Hazen, so they're a company, I think they're out of Buffalo. They are currently preparing what that schedule will look like. So I don't have the exact answers for demolition, but stopping the use of it will take place February the 3rd. We will no longer be running water to the wastewater treatment plant as of February 3.
And that's a hard date.
It's a hard date as far as DEC is concerned. So if we needed to revise what we're doing, it would need to be a conversation with DEC.
Okay. Well, hopefully Leo will be able to figure it out fairly quickly if we have someone that's interested. That's all I'm worried about. We don't want to shut it off at the same time we got somebody that says, oh yeah, I'd like to buy it, or take it over, and then all of a sudden the water's all off.
Right, but what GLC doesn't want to keep idling the building in its running state with energy and gas and heat and all that good stuff in there, because it is quite an expensive building just to let it.
Sure, no, I understand that. I'm just trying to work through that. There's maybe a few, depending on where Lee is with these couple developers. So we'll keep in contact with you. I know Lee will.
Yep.
I had a question, Matt, what do you estimate what will it cost to demolish that plant?
We don't have an estimate for that done either, but I would expect it to be at least a few million.
Okay, thank you.
And Lee has asked whether or not any environmentals, as did Craig. So
Right.
I'm fine with you guys doing environmental studies on the building. We have not done any environmentals in a long time, 40 years or more. So if, for example, there was risk of things like lead pipes still being in there, or if there's any asbestos has been wrapped around insulation 70 years ago, we currently are not aware of any in the building, but as walls start getting opened up, it's possible those types of things could be found. And an environmental study would need to be performed to identify the probability of that.
I would guess you take
And
most of that out.
As you mentioned, when you use the term bare ground, so if you do demolish everything, then you obviously will probably plan to sell the property.
Currently, no.
No.
So GLC would plan to retain the land itself.
Okay, all right.
So that, yeah, you guys probably know GLC is still over 80% owned by the Everett family. So the family themselves like real estate, they like land. So they wanted to keep the land. They just don't want to keep their manufacturing plant.
Well,
Thank you.
And the land, I guess maybe, I don't know, you may or may not know, GLC does have somewhere in the range of 400 acres of land just there. So where the plant is sitting, that 10 or 15 acres that's on the flat area, is that we would be willing to donate, or that's what we would return to our green state. The rest of the land the family wishes to retain, unless there was some especially good reason to sell it.
Yeah, because I think that's nice developable land anyways, because it's got power and gas access, you know what I'm saying? That's something that we would like to talk to you about at some stage.
And like you noted, the water is coming from wells there, and the
Sure.
sewer is handled by us locally. So
Right.
there is no sanitary water, and no potable water and no sanitary waste system at that site.
Right.
Anyone who takes it over would need to either provide their own septic systems and wells, or the town would need to run water and sewer to it.
Right.
Matt, thank you for sharing this is Judy. Thank you for sharing the wishes of the family to retain that portion of the land. I can commiserate with that philosophy a lot in my own family. But so does the family have any potential use that they are planning for that money, or excuse me, the land that they're
No.
retaining? Just to let it
No, when they
go
buy
to
land,
nature?
they generally don't sell it, they buy and hold. So they have some sentimental attachment to it, but
Sure.
they don't have any planned use for
Okay, yeah, I'm just wondering if, if they were planning something themselves or just letting it go back to nature.
it. So currently it's selectively logged, and then a number of the land out there that's farmed, we don't actually charge any of the farmers who use it, it's kind of free. But some of the land is farmed.
Okay, thank you. Anybody have other questions or any comments that Matt wants to make, or Rich, or Lee is, I think she's talking
I
with
think
the
she's
people
back
on
to
the
her tour, yeah.
Yeah, she's not.
She's still selling your land.
Yeah, yeah,
Anyway,
so, but does anybody else have anything that they'd like to discuss with Matt? So you have your answer, Craig?
Yeah,
as
we'll
far
keep
as
in
your
contact
question?
you with Lee and I myself as far as if we have anybody that, that they move a little bit if we had to. Thank you.
and you already have our schedule of activity, Craig, so.
Yeah, I sent it to the board, so the board-
Changes on that.
Yeah, the board has that.
Yeah, we have that, yeah. And, Matt, we appreciate you taking the time to talk to us today. You've been on our agenda for a number of meetings over the last few years, but it's really nice to have a face-to-face conversation with you, so thank you.
And if you wanted to meet any more, or anyone needs to go to the facility and you want me to come out there, happy to do so. If there was any interest in acquiring the site as a donation by the company to some entity as well, we would like to know if there are any merit in that. We assumed actually early on, from years ago, when the project very first started, that what we didn't want to do was create a burden on Cuba by saying, hey, donate this manufacturing plant, and then it sits there with no use, and then becomes an eyesore on the community. So the family understanding was that the preference would be to demolish it versus let it sit there.
Mhm, mhm. Well, and Cuba Cheese and now Great Lakes has been a part of the community and part of the county for many, many, many years. And it's a rich history that we appreciate your concern about keeping that history in a positive way for the community and for the surrounding area. So thank you to the Great Lakes Company for having that sensitivity.
And obviously the area there's been very welcome hosts for the company for over 70 years there, really. So we appreciate everything that Craig and Lee and the community's done to try and help us figure out the solution and the path forward for the building as well. You guys probably recall we spent a couple of years trying to find the site in Allegheny.
Yep.
Before ultimately there was no real option and we ended up in Cattaraugus. But the family again wanted to stay as close as they possibly could to the area and minimize disruption.
Yeah.
So we got partway through our objectives, just not quite all the way.
Yeah, I do want to thank the family for that. I know New York and the employees that have been employed have been very appreciative that you stayed that close, so thank you.
And just
And our retention rate on employees was much higher than we expected. Although we had some concern that people would not come with us from the town. Our retention rate has been over 90%, so we're in pretty good shape.
that's fabulous.
Well, that's good company.
Well, and just a last thing, I speak personally here as a family that's been in the dairy farming business for since 1915. That you have really brought prosperity or increased markets for dairy milk, for dairy farmers. And I know that dairy farmers in Western New York especially are going to benefit from your expansion and your loyalty to the area. So we appreciate that.
Yeah, a number of the farmers who have been providing to the plant for a long time, obviously they approach us saying, can you buy more of my milk specifically? But we buy through DFA as a co-op in that area in upstate Niagara. But the amount of the milk, all of the milk actually that goes into the plant, both the existing plant as well as Franklinville, about 99.8% might be a tiny bit less. Now that milk comes from within about a 50-mile radius of the facility. So it's all Western New York milk, a tiny bit comes from Pennsylvania.
Yes,
But
for sure.
it's a big support for the agricultural community in Western New York there. So even all the farms in Allegheny will still be shipping their milk to the Franklinville plant.
And that was my point exactly, is that all of the Western New York dairy farmers are going to benefit from this. And I think that probably many of them will continue to grow their herd and supply more milk. Can you just tell us how many gallons of milk you are processing on a daily basis or a weekly basis?
Now milk is measured in pounds when it goes into the dairy industry, into our industry. So we will process just under 4.5 million pounds of raw milk per day. And then in addition to that, we also reconstitute dried milk in FDM or non-fat dry milk, so milk with the fat removed. We also reconstitute that to make up some additional milk equivalent. And then not the dried milk is surplus milk that's produced in New York and gets sent to drying facilities for storage. We are able to reconstitute some of that, which helps out a little bit when there's surpluses of milk in the market.
That's awesome. Good. Well, maybe someday
And the
we'll
old
come over and get
facility,
a
by
tour of the new plant.
When we were shutting down the old plant, it was only taking in about 1.9 million pounds per day. So the new facility is well over double.
Great. Great incentive for Western New York. So we thank you for being
Well,
here
thanks, Matt,
today.
for your time, and we'll keep in contact the next few weeks, okay?
Yeah, available anytime, as you know, Craig.
Yeah, I know.
Thank you, Matt. Appreciate it.
Oh, thank you.
Have a good day.
You too, bye.
You're welcome to stay on for just, oh, he's gone. Okay.
Well, it's disappointing that I didn't realize that the waste from the boilers was going to the, I didn't
So
understand.
now we got 3 weeks.
Well,
Yeah.
We've been looking at it. We've had a lot of people look at it.
People don't wanna buy a place that's, they don't wanna talk to you. I've been through it
Well,
4
it's
times
been-
now.
now-
They say you can't do anything until the place is
Well,
empty.
now it's easier to see.
Yeah.
Because before you couldn't
Yeah, they
really mark
Cut
it.
us off at the knees.
And that's the real problem, but I also, I don't have a problem still asking to see if we can move that date some, we'll keep in contact, but I think Lee has at least one that's really
Lee's back on.
interesting, so we'll keep contacting. We'll go ahead, let's get through our agenda.
Okay, good. Lee, did you have any closing comments you want to make to us? I know you've been with the tour here.
Yeah, sorry, I got sidetracked, visiting with a few
That's fine.
folks that were on the tour.
Yeah.
So they've got to go back and collectively talk amongst themselves, which is expected because once you walk through the facility and see the size of it, it is overwhelming. So we'll get them some more information and see what they come back with. In the meantime, I'll reach out to the developer as well and see what his thoughts are on it. And, we'll wait and see, but, I do think there is potential for the plant, but the timeline is the tough piece of it.
Mhm.
So if we can get any extension on any
Yeah.
of that would be
I think we still need to keep talking with on that, even if we can move it a few weeks, it'd be helpful, but we'll see, okay?
Okay, all right, well, thank you, I'm gonna jump off if that's okay.
Sure.
That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah, I have a question. This is Rich. I had a question. Okay, so it's gonna cost them a few $1 million to demolish the plant. So if somebody locally wants to take over the plant, I think they have a plan for it. I mean, is Great Lakes Cheese gonna pay them $1 million or $2 million to take it? Would they do that?
I don't
Because,
think they would do that, but if we wanna have it gifted either to the town or the IDA, I'm sure they'd be willing to do that. But the big piece is, if they're gonna auction off boilers and other things, we need to stop that, because otherwise, that's gonna be a real issue.
boilers for the process or boilers for heat?
For heat.
So on?
Heating, same thing, it does all of it, so.
Well, that was the thing we went through yesterday. I didn't realize that they had a boiler system that was doing everything. They don't have it's an integrated system. That's what the problem is.
So the people that wanna look at it, that we're looking at today, for example, say, geez, we'd like to get it, but it's gonna be so expensive to, remodel it or refurbish it. Couldn't they just go to Great Lakes Cheese and say, look, take everything out but the heat, that you wanna sell, we're not gonna use it for dairy, or maybe those people are dairy, or maybe that's.
No, they're not dairy, so.
And just say, pay us $500,000 or $1 million and we'll take it.
Well, like you said, Lee, I think that's something we should discuss because you never know. It'd be to their benefit to just,
Cheaper than demolishing it,
right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Lee,
Well, those are good thoughts.
Lee, if you would like to attend an IDA meeting in the future, to have some of this discussion with us, we welcome you to come. So
Okay, I
On-
appreciate that.
on screen or in person. So
All right.
keep
Okay,
up the good
great.
work, and we appreciate your efforts to continue that legacy. So, good.
Well, thank you. And if you don't mind, I'm gonna jump off.
Yes, you're
unless there's
fine.
anything
You
else.
go sell your building.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
3 weeks.
Thanks, Lee.
No, I know.
Okay, we are ready to go back to our agenda, see if we can go through, and finish
Yeah, I
the
know.
meeting. Is Oakley coming today?
I sent him a message, he did not reply.
Okay.
He told me he was, I talked to him this morning.
Yeah,
He
look
said
outside.
Okay.
he said he planned
Let's
on
see.
coming.
I did send him a reminder, of course.
He has.
Go ahead.
Okay, the
Happens
next,
all the time.
in my calculation, the next item to discuss is the 2025 officers. Under the action items, apparently we need to get that happening for 2025. Is there any motion on the officers for 2025?
I move we compensate officers.
I think that's a great
We'll
idea.
double the compensation, how's that?
Double the compensation, hey,
2 times 0.
that's a very good idea. All in favor? I don't hear anything, I'm sorry. You're gonna have to be, okay. Okay, back to seriousness, but thank you, Randy. There was some discussion earlier about keeping the same officers. As one of the officers, I would prefer not to speak to that, but, John, do you have any comments about that?
I'd like to keep the same officers.
Rich, you, okay, would one of you want to make some kind of a motion to that effect?
Keep the same officers?
Yes. I believe the present officers are willing to continue if they are so elected.
Okay, so moved.
Second.
Well, Rich is the secretary. Were you trying to find somebody that wasn't an officer? Is that what you were doing?
No, just, I don't think Randy wants to make that motion, and I don't either, so. The motion has been made, though, by Rich and seconded by John. I think it's okay for him to make that motion. Are you thinking a point of order, Doug?
Yeah. I won't. We don't have much choice.
We don't have a, yeah, we only have one
That's fine
person
with
who's,
me.
okay. It's been moved and seconded that we retain the same officers for 2025. Is there any discussion about that from the officers or non-officers? Randy had a proposal, but I think
It died in committee.
died. Okay. No other comments? Okay, we're ready to vote then. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay, that is unanimous.
I want to thank all the officers for serving again.
Thank you. We are what you got, so. Okay, we have, the next item is to discuss any updates to the insurance for the Allegheny County IDA. We have that open for discussion. Rich, I believe you have some
Okay.
comments?
I will, I kind of went over the ACUC situation. We've talked to our marketing rep for Cincinnati, asked them about the ACUC and what they thought. Okay, so Cincinnati writes the policy for the water line for the ACUC, and they write what I call a BOP, a business owner policy type policy for the building you're sitting in plus the OFA building. And again, with Cincinnati, when we first wrote this, and even right now, a lot of companies don't want to write IDAs because of the controversy. So like, think of the Great Lakes cheese, controversy, and just the weird things that IDAs get involved in. Cincinnati was willing to write that, and it was our agreement that we would insure the 3 properties, Friendship, the truck stop at the time, and Belmont. Well, actually, the Belmont, when we did this, Belmont parking lot was not included. But to take those off, because those are not traditional exposures for a business owner policy, so we insure that separately. through an excess and surplus lines carrier for $1 million. We have $1 million policy on that, on those three. So the other policy we have is a directors and officers policy, and it covered people on the IDA, and it covered the ACUC directors automatically as well. It did not cover the CRC directors, which were all the same people, but did not cover us for that exposure, which I don't even know if we have an exposure through the CRC, but we're all on that board. And so we were able to get the carrier to just add the CRC as a named insured on our current D&O policy. So we have coverage, quote unquote, for free now for all three entities under the directors and officers policy.
Excellent.
And, you know, I guess at this point, my only recommendation, or not even a recommendation, but an option that the IDA could consider is buying more umbrella limits for our bot policy that we have across, you know, the building you're sitting in and the OFA building. And so, you know, that would cover if somebody gets hurt there or on the way in there from the parking lot that actually the county leases now. So it's really, you know, primarily the county's issue if somebody got hurt there, but we could be on the line as well. And also, it provides hired and non-owned auto coverage, which just means Barb's on the way to the bank, she runs over somebody, you know, and the lawyer asks what she's doing. Well, I'm on the way to the bank for the IDA. Okay, well, we're gonna sue them too. And so that's what the hired and non-owned auto coverage is for. So right now, we have $1 million in hired and non-owned auto coverage on the Cincinnati policy and $1 million under the umbrella. So there's $2 million there. So that's another exposure it covers. And, you know, we could buy higher limits on the umbrella for $500 per million. And I don't know if the board really, I mean, thinks we need to do that. In the past, we never had any cash. And, you know, I think that's part of the reason that we kept a 2 million limit. We're gonna start, you know, collecting some fees. And so we could buy higher limits, but we, you know, we don't have to. And I don't think we're, you know, I'm not adamant that we buy any. I don't think we're crazy if we don't buy higher limits. Does anybody have any questions about what I went over?
No, it's good that all the board members are covered for each board. I think that's important.
Yeah, that's a great help. Is this a yearly policy, Rich, or how long is this policy for?
I think they're all yearly policies, Judy.
Okay.
I know most of them are. I'm gonna look it up right now.
Okay.
I didn't have this, you know, Cincinnati's the only company that I know of that writes 3-year policies. Sometimes they used to write those and kind of got away from it. And I'll check, you know.
Okay. Thank you. And incidentally, Oakley is present now as well. Oakley's in the room in case you have we're talking about the ACUC stuff too here. Insurance.
We'll do that later.
Yeah, no, just as far as insurance goes.
Yeah, I'm working on my laptop, so I'm closing some windows to get that.
Is there any comments?
Any other comments? Yeah.
I mean, if Rich, I think where we are is a reasonable space as far as the umbrella insurance and at this stage.
And hopefully we won't have to use it.
Right.
For anybody running somebody over on the way to the bank.
Usually Deb Rude always talks about getting hit by a bus. I've never heard about running over somebody with your car, but.
Okay, well, insurance guys have images. Okay, Rich is looking something up, but any comments from anybody else on the board here present?
Sounds good.
That sounds good.
Okay, I'm getting closer. Just bear with me 1 second.
Okay, sorry I asked a difficult question.
No, not at all.
I thought it was
That's one thing I didn't look at before we got on, so. Okay.
Well,
Yeah, all one-year policies, some renew in August
okay.
and some January, May. So, yeah, all one-year policies.
Thank you. That just really means that we need to, we'll need to revisit this subject sooner than later. So, any other comments from the board? So is there actually, Rich, is there a decision that we need to make about renewing the policy and keeping things the same?
No, I mean, no, there isn't, just, you know, if the board wants to, wants to buy higher umbrella limits than we have right now, which, you know, an umbrella sits over the liability, and in this case, the higher non-owned liability. So, you know, if we want to buy higher limits, it's for every $1 million, you know, at least up to 5 million, it's $500 a year. So that's a pretty good buy, but I'm not necessarily saying, you know, I always think about, okay, what are we protecting when we buy liability insurance? If I'm insuring a municipality, okay, I'm protecting the taxpayers, you know? If it's my own business or my own home, I'm protecting myself, my business, my home. You know, the IDA, if we get sued and there's an award for $5 million, they're gonna get our insurance money, they're gonna get all the money that we have in the bank, and then what happens, you know? I don't, you know, it's not like somebody's gonna lose their job, except Craig maybe, but I mean, I'm saying that jokingly.
I know.
But, you know, it's not like, I just don't know, it's just not a strange situation, a different situation than, you know, we have to consider most of the time, so. I guess it's really, different people on the board are gonna have different opinions.
Well, for the next, there's nothing critical to do today. If you want me to, I can check with some other IDAs, what they have for umbrella limit if you wanna find
Okay.
out.
You can if you want.
I'm just saying, just at least then we have some reference point.
Okay, and Rich, you're the insurance expert, so, what you just talked about, is that a recommendation from you, to up the policy amount, or?
No, I'm really not making the recommendation to do that. I'm just giving everybody the facts. I mean,
Right.
I think, you know, people have their own, you know, viewpoints on how much insurance you want to have and why you want to have it and so on. And I don't think anybody's right or wrong.
Right.
You know,
Just a risk
we
analysis.
don't pay very many claims in the $1 million range, but it happens. You know, when I say we, I'm saying in Wellsville,
Right.
my commercial customers or our Buffalo commercial customers that I'm familiar with, you know, we haven't had a lot of huge claims. And, you know, remember, the claims we're gonna pay are somebody slips and falls and gets hurt, somebody gets hurt, we hurt somebody, we're negligent in a car accident on IDA business. You know, the directors and, you know, the wrongful acts, like somebody sues us for land use or discrimination or something like that, that's covered on our directors and officers policy that we have. And also, we're all appointed by the county. So, you know, I think there is probably, and I wouldn't want to rely on it, but I've said this before, I think there's probably coverage from the county's policy, at least for our duties that we perform on the IDA board. But, you know, I wouldn't assume on the ACUC because it's not non-for-profit. And I know, you know, Brooke Harris didn't appoint me to the CRC or the ACUC. He appointed me to IDA. So I think there's some coverage from the county,
Okay.
probably.
And I would agree with that, Rich. So I think we just looked at that, and that's the case. We can double check that too.
So there's really nothing that we have to react to today. And,
I don't think so.
okay, and Craig is gonna,
I just verify, because it
you know,
phone call
survey
or
around what,
I can find out what other IDAs carry and that have similar, like what we are, you know what I'm saying, not a bigger one.
and we can revisit. We're kind of in the middle of the year for the policies. We don't have to make a decision until perhaps August or something like that, but just, we don't need to make it today.
Right.
Is that good?
If anybody has any questions or wants to discuss offline, give me a call.
Okay, all right, appreciate that very much. So we'll revisit that when it's necessary, Craig.
I'll see if I can find
You
some.
find out. So,
My guess is they're gonna be the same range that what we have already, but I'll just find that out.
okay, yeah. All right, yeah, we don't think about insurance until we need it, you know, okay. Thank you for that discussion. The next one is to discuss, the, EPA Brownfield project, and we have some information on that. Craig, you want to
It's a
present
big package because it has all the EPA information in it.
that?
Really, it's the first 6 pages that I wanted to review, although you can review everything because it's going to be an RFP to go out. We do have authority to go forward. The EPA grant is now a contract with the EPA. They just gave me the official approval over Christmas time. I sent you that. So now we have the EPA Brownfield grant, and the Brownfield grant will assess the county to see where our brownfields are. And then there's money in there to do some phase 1s. And I think I sent in there was 2 phase 2s potentially. But all that work will be done through a consultant who we're gonna hire. And that's what the RFP is for, is to go out to hire a consultant. So it'll be similar to what we've been doing for the CBDG grant. We'll have someone that does all the legwork, does all the work. It'll be through the IDA as far as the grant itself. And Rich asked some really good questions as far as was there enough money in there from the original grant for travel. I think there is, but if there's not, I did make sure that we got $25,000 in there for indirect costs that goes directly to the IDA, so we could use that for whatever purposes we wanted. Some of the other EPA grants did not have an indirect cost. They had a cost built in there based upon how many hours we spent on the project. I made sure we got a lump sum, $25,000 in there that we get no matter what we do, but we can use those funds however we want to.
Okay,
This says the target area is the village of Wellsville.
Well, that is a target area, but it's going to be all encompassing. It's the full county.
It's the whole county.
Yeah.
I already told the guy in Cuba.
It is the whole county. No,
Okay, it just says
we
the target
We
area.
had to write in
I'm
a
reading.
target area because that's the biggest area that potentially
Right, I
has.
understand that, which is.
But it's
yeah.
not like it's the whole county. It covers
Okay,
the
no.
county.
Said they
Thank you, that was my
wanted
question
20
too, John.
different, yeah, it said it had
Yeah.
a couple phase 1.
Right.
phase 2.
That's available for anybody once we assess
Okay.
where we want to try to develop. So it's not that, but they have to add a target area,
Okay.
and that's the largest target area as far as
Exactly,
potential brownfields.
Yeah.
You know, the tannery and everything else.
no doubt, with refinery and all
thank you for clarifying that. Yeah, that was some notes I had.
And there'll be a number of meetings that I'll be attending, but all those meetings will be run by the consultant. And
Okay.
we do not know who's on the brownfield committee yet, but I know the planning department will be on it and some leaders from the different areas, probably from Wellsville as well in Cuba, the bigger communities.
So would you be kind of directing that committee that,
Yes,
okay,
and we'd be reporting obviously monthly or whenever things came up to the IDA. It really is an IDA grant.
okay,
So the county's really aware of this. I know the county thinks it's a good idea. The planning department thinks it's a good idea. We've never assessed our brownfields in the county. And this gives us the ability to say there are brownfields, and then we could bring in developers potentially, because they get tax credits to develop the brownfields.
Yeah.
But we're not trying to identify brownfields that folks don't want to be working with us either. We're just trying to figure out which ones that potentially would want to work with us on.
do you have any kind of an estimate now, as to how many brownfield areas there are in the county? None?
None.
Okay.
0. Oh,
We
yeah.
just.
The other thing that was
yeah.
interesting is there may be funds by going through this, and I didn't even realize that, one consultant had mentioned all of the untapped oil and gas wells in the county. Maybe something we can bring in to actually have some EPA funds to seal some of those up,
And-
which would be
and-
interesting. It'd be good for the county.
And when you were
that.
trying
20
to,
on my project.
I know they're every place, but
when we're trying to attract companies, industries, people into the county, is it advantageous to have this brownfield distinction that it
They
is a
get
brownfield
fairly
area?
large tax credits. In fact, one of the developers, even at the crossroads, and before we call it the Gateway, a hotel developer, the first thing he asked, was it on a brownfield?
Brownfield, okay.
Because a lot of these developers, that's how they make a lot of their funds back. It makes it much more attractive to them to get the tax credits. Or they get more tax credits than what they spend on the small cleanup they have to do.
So having this happening, the process is really advantageous to the overall economic development efforts in the county.
It actually is a nice marriage to be able to do this, yes.
Great. Any other questions from the board?
If not, I'd like to have an authorization to put that request for proposals out, so we can get some proposals.
Okay,
There are a number of companies there'll probably be 3 or 4 people that'll apply for it.
okay. How about, would you like to state the motion, and then we'll have somebody make that motion?
Yeah, there should be a motion by the IDA to basically send out the request for proposals that I've sent out. And the due date of this proposal is the end of February, so we can get going. That's one of the things we have to do is by the first quarter, know who our consultant is going to be.
Okay, so we have until end of March, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so that is a motion. Would someone like to present that motion to the board for approval?
I'll move that we send out requests for proposals for the brownfield services to be performed.
Okay,
That works.
Thank you.
Thank you, that works.
thank you. That works. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Doug. Okay. Any further discussion on this? Thank you for that additional information. That really clarifies some of the stuff that was in the project description. So,
And once we get the consultant, we'll have them report directly to the board, just like we do with the CBEG, so that it's not translated.
and is there a possibility that this consultant might be a local person, or are they gonna
Very
be coming
doubtful.
from,
Very, very
you know,
doubtful.
Arizona or something?
Oh,
like
be in
that?
New York State.
New York State. Okay.
There's plenty of consultants in New York State that do this work.
So this person would.
Albany,
just be coming and
Rochester,
going.
Buffalo area, I would guess.
Okay, so they're available. That's good. Okay, any other discussion? Call for a vote, then all those in favor, please say aye.
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 That is unanimous, thank you. That is passed. Okay, next on the agenda is to discuss the sale of the lot in Belmont. We had some, I believe that there is concern to hold off on that sale, if somebody would like to speak to that. Craig or Tim?
We've had discussions with the county,
Yeah.
including Carissa and Tim Boyd, and basically the recommendation is to put that on hold at this time. We only had one it was one company that decided they wanted to bid on it, but we put it on hold. They're still using the lot, so we'll be good. So I think we're good. The other thing is the board should be able to, and I'll send out an official letter to request that the county at least manage the parking lot so it gets to a safe state.
Okay,
There are some potholes in it.
okay, so, would someone like to state a motion basically to delay, the process of selling that piece of property and, connecting with the county?
And
for
requesting the county to do some
requesting.
maintenance on that parking lot.
Did we have a motion to sell it to start with?
No,
Well, then why do we need a motion?
We don't.
to delay it?
Okay,
the only thing we should basically say is there should be a motion that I'll send a letter to requesting that the county maintain that parking lot.
okay,
Yeah, I'll make that motion.
okay. Thank you, Doug. Second? Randy? Thank you. Okay, any other discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that is passed. Okay, we are on to old business. Local Development Fund.
We have our EIN number so we can operate, and in the near future, we'll have our first board meeting, but we have not had a board meeting at this stage. One thing that was brought up was the fact that the address on the registration was incorrect, and I have a document that all the board members here will have to sign to basically change that address. Rich has already signed it, but I'll pass it around after this and we get that signed, and then we're operational.
Okay, good.
So we should have a board meeting, and probably the next meeting we'll have our first board meeting, the organization meeting.
All right. Allegheny County Strategic Plan Economic Development / EDO.
Well, I continue to work with Ashley. We've had a regional meeting with some people on development. We're having another meeting. I'll report back. I think last time she reported on the first regional meeting, we talked about initiatives of what we're going to be talking about, probably mostly on workforce development. And the other question, we've had some meetings, Ashley and I, on the bio refinery development zones. And I've sent you I gave in your package, if you can read it. They're talking about potentially another consultant would get us some money to do this. One time, remember, we were going to do a biorefinery in the county, and we had the money. And we had a fairly large study that has been done that shows there's plenty of biomass in the area. And Ashley and I are going to be talking to this company the next month, and I'll bring it back to the board in February if we're going to put a proposal in. But I thought at least at this time, I would give you the handouts that you could read through that, and we can discuss it in more detail the next board. What it basically is the bioenergy is basically taking wood and other woody mass products and basically making ethanol and other products out of it. So, and there is a movement to do that in the U.S. And if you're ranked as having enough biomass, you could attract a biorefinery company. And it would be no cost.
Fossil fuel.
Yeah, no comment. Yeah, you actually do. It's indirectly, yes. But it's not fossil, it's similar, yes, it burns like fossil fuel, yes, ethanol.
I didn't know more about that sometime. Okay.
So anyways, I just sent you that to the next
Okay.
board meeting. If we get to the point of making a proposal, I'll get you that to more information.
Okay, thank you. I have a question. So is there a structure for the economic development effort that is happening?
Well, we funded the fact, and they actually have a not-for-profit that's operational.
Right.
I
So,
don't think they have a board set yet, right?
okay, that's what I'm wondering is when is the structure gonna happen? What's the progress on that? So, okay.
I don't know when the board
Comments,
members are, I know they're looking at potential board members, but I have not seen a set of potential.
Yeah, I just know about the meetings that have been
Right.
held, but.
But they do have a structure that's been
what comes
approved
out
by
of
the
that,
state,
you
so
know?
that there's a not-for-profit that's operational.
Good. Any questions about that from the board? Okay, let's move on to the Gateway Center, to Western New York Wilds. Anything new?
The road is progressing as weather permits, so that move is in the process.
Right.
We anticipate another federal appropriation to be released after Congress gets its act together this month. Somewhere in the neighborhood of 1.25 million that will go towards the water line and the water line construction. That's for the tower and looking at those pieces. So it's moving, and we are looking at now the next phase for our congressional requests. And those will be due sometime in February, March. And we do have a meeting scheduled, I believe, towards the end. I don't know if you were on that request, toward the end of the month to look at the development of a comprehensive plan for how all of this is going to come together from the standpoint of the county's piece, and then we do need to include the IDA's piece because we're doing a lot of work on and around and in the property owned by the IDA. And so just need to make sure we have some coordination there. But
Mhm.
I think it's progressing, and there's also a meeting coming up to talk about the transportation center, which will be a part of the DPW site on the S-curves. So that is going to be a fairly big complex. And I believe Oakley's been involved or asked to be involved. There's some discussion with Oakley around the water system and the package plant and what's the best way to proceed. I think the nice thing, if we look at a package plant for the S-curves, is it's something that's easily achievable and actually moves that process forward for hotel development and other pieces. So,
Is there any kind of a timeline on that, on some of those things?
well, that's part
When
of
are we
the,
gonna be ready to?
well, the water line should be, I mean, that piece should be completed by the end of 25 or close to it.
I would think so, yeah, as long as all the approvals get taken, because they have the funds to do that.
And then the next part would be, what are we going to do with the package plant? And I talked with Tom about timelines for that. That's roughly 8 to 12 months, maybe, so they could all happily collide at the same time, and maybe you could be breaking ground on a new hotel. So I think hopefully, in an ideal world, probably 2 years or less.
We have a developer that's ready as long as we get water and sewer. And we have the water, but I'm talking about for fire protection.
Okay, that's good. Good things happening.
Yes.
Good.
And along with this, that's what I sent out the CP&L estimate to do some work out there for a cultural arts center, potentially new building, potentially for the IDA. And is there any other discussion? I'd like to do parts of that, if not all of that.
Mhm.
So I need board approval to move forward on parts or all of that proposal.
Okay, I'm just looking for my papers on that.
And obviously, the board's gonna be engaged in that process. It's not like they're gonna go out and do something. They have to come in and talk to the full board.
What proposal?
A CP&L proposal. It was to look at the potential to have an office space out there and then give us an estimate.
And that's what we need to coordinate, what we're looking at, because part of the, where everything is sited.
Right.
Some of the original CPL drawings or renderings have been moved around due to wetlands and other pieces.
Right.
Yeah, are we looking at accepting this proposal today from CPL? Or we're kind of moving from one section
Well,
to
we
another?
we need to have a discussion, and I think if we're going to potentially build out there, we need to have someone look at it and estimate cost.
Okay, I mean, I think we really do need to have a master plan of what's happening first, second, third, and what kind of action needs to be happening to make all these things happen. One of the things in the CPL proposal, talks about the location of the IDA services in that building. So, if this is gonna happen, then we don't even need to think about where the IDA is gonna be elsewhere. So, as has been presented to us. Yeah, it just needs to be part of the plan. So are we looking to accept this grant today or just discussion?
It'd be up to the board. I would like to accept at least part of it, if not the full proposal, yes.
Okay, we can accept just part of it?
Because otherwise, we're talking about potentially building a cultural arts center based upon a grant.
Mhm.
And the grant requires an estimate of cost.
Mhm.
And I have no estimate of cost, so I can't do the grant. In other words, we're just kind of stuck. How far you want to go on the building part is up to the board.
Mhm.
And I can have Tom McElhaney come into the board meeting next and discuss that at the next board meeting.
Well, Randy mentioned going as far as getting a cost estimate, right, Randy? I
That's
mean,
correct.
That makes sense, and if it's only $1,500 or $2,000, then it sounds like we all think it's a good idea.
I think that's what we need to have for sure, and then we can start talking to CP&L as far as what we want in the building to look like, yes.
Mhm.
I'm gonna be a no on this just because I'm
That's
not a big fan of CPLs. Is that when I first came on this board, we paid them $100 and some thousand to do a big, it was CPL, we had a big survey for the Crossroads area.
Yes.
And they had a package plant there. Then we can't have a package plant there. They had it all set up for one there, and we found out from the,
We've
Environmental
not
that can't go
actually
there.
talked to DEC about that.
I've heard different from our
Did
engineers.
they finally talk to them?
Yeah, they said you can't do it. That's why it's down at the Crossroads. So we paid them a lot of money. They said, put it here, and they can't go there. So I'm gonna be a no on anything CPL.
Okay,
So that's
that's
just
fine.
where I have to stand.
Thank you for sharing that. Other discussion, questions? And if we are approving something today, Craig, would you just be specific about what part we're
At this
we're
stage,
discussing?
we'd like to make sure Clark Patterson can give an estimate for costs and we can actually go out and try to get the grant to do the Cultural Arts Center, but it also would help us decide if it's something we want to do for our building.
Okay. Got that, Bart?
So do we have a cost limit? Is that
There's a cost, there's a design element and there's an estimate for cost. It's $1,800. And we have enough to get a cost estimate right now.
Hey Craig, I had a question. Do you remember when we originally took the tanks out before they developed the gas station, the Quicklies out there? So
Yes,
who was the consultant that did the environmental on that?
Labella.
Oh, yeah. So I mean, John, we had a situation, you probably remember, they did an estimate on that. They said there were like 2 tanks or 3 tanks. There were obviously 5 or 6 tanks out there because there were 5 or 6 vents. They knew better. Then they got the job, then they came back and charged us through the nose for the quote unquote extra tanks, you know, that their engineers knew were there anyway. So there's enough, okay, so there's 2 companies we don't want to use. So like, I understand what you're saying. I'm not arguing with you. That's, I feel the same way you do. But I mean, I think might run out of engineers. I don't know.
Yeah,
And there's no recourse. There's absolutely no recourse against these people.
right. I just in good conscience can't say yes to them. You know, just like
Yeah.
Labella, they were the ones on the water line, which was a fiasco.
I understand.
So that's just, I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah.
We get it. Okay, I think we have a motion, right? Is the motion made by anybody? I'm sorry, we're getting lost in
I
discussion
don't
here.
think so.
Well, I'm asking for a motion to
Okay,
basically
ask
use
for-
CP&L to at least do an estimate of cost
Okay,
at this stage only.
Do you have a dollar figure for that?
$1,800.
Okay,
okay. Anybody want to make the motion?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, thank you, Doug. Okay, second? Second of the motion?
I'll second the motion and again, I reemphasize the cost limitation.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, all right. Been moved and seconded that we do what Craig said with CPL to follow through on this, on a portion of this proposal.
I'll also at the same time ask him about the package plant locations. I have not asked him about that.
Okay. Okay,
I will.
it's good to revisit that. Jim, thank you for coming. Show Randy your line. There's this,
Ooh,
okay.
I like that.
Call the
Okay.
question.
Are we ready to vote, please? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed?
Thank you. The motion is passed. Okay. Yeah, let's get started on that.
Okay.
Okay, clean energy projects.
I have no real updates except for LACAP. Wind is going through, if you've noticed in the press on their Cattaraugus County. And I don't know how, I didn't hear what the results were on that, but they've been asked to do similar to what Wyoming and Allegheny County have done to give them some benefits. I don't know where they are in that state. They've had their public hearings. That was like 30th
Did they have that?
30th
one?
of 30th
Okay, I knew
December.
they
I
were
did not
planning on
attend.
another one.
Thank you for keeping track of that and please keep us
We're
informed.
good, yep.
Okay, no new projects or anything?
No.
At this point. Okay, we have already had the Great Lakes discussion, with Matt Wilkinson. We appreciate that. We've already talked about the EPA brownfield grant.
Right.
So is there any new business? How about anything for the good of the order?
Well, the only question I have, Craig, is on the money that we got in, that are in the community bank checking account now.
Right.
What's our plan to?
Well, we approved last time to move that to CDs.
So has that been done?
It will be done after, I've actually got the amounts. And I talked to Rich about that yesterday. I don't have it in front of me.
Do we have the interest rate?
The interest rates for 6 months is 3.85 and 12 month is 3.65, and it's fully insured for the full amount that we put in.
Okay, so we are going to be.
Yeah.
Sure.
So it's a higher interest for 6 months?
Yes,
Wow.
well, that's because the rates have been changing. So
Okay.
my recommendation, and I talked, it would make, half that money should go into 6 month and half for 12 month. That way we have some flexibility.
All right,
So you have the paperwork to sign shortly.
Okay, do we need to vote on that?
We already voted on it.
Okay.
It'll have to be a board meeting,
Okay,
but it took a while to get the actual numbers from the bank.
okay, that's good news. So by our next meeting, it should be,
It'll no, before probably next week or next, we'll have it all signed off on.
okay, good. Thanks for the question, Doug. Anything else? If not, we'll take a motion for adjournment.
I'll move.
Second.
Thank you, John. Second by Doug. Okay, and, all those in favor